Hey guys, here we are for episode 3 of the Chile Ride series here on the Spanish Dojo channel, which documents my cousins and my motorcycle adventure across the country of Chile in January of 2020. If you haven't done so yet, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Remember that this series is available in both English and Spanish, so if you prefer, solo haz clic aquí arriba para ver este episodio en español. In the last installment, we finished out what remained of the Atacama region and also got into the northern part of the Coquimbo region, stopping in the city of La Serena. Now we'll spend some time in that same Coquimbo region and we'll then ride across most of the region of Valparaíso. These two administrative regions are still within the Norte Chico, that is the small north or near north, which I mentioned in the last episode. At this point, we're pretty much leaving the desert behind, but are still enjoying the very agreeable Mediterranean climate that I mentioned previously. So think warm temperatures and low humidity. Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, last I knew, you guys were broken down in La Serena with no prospects. How are we going to see all of that in this episode if you can't go anywhere? Well, here's what happened with that. As you'll recall, on the morning of January 14th, we had gotten up, gotten packed, and were ready to head out. But we soon realized that I had a bad starter, and the only BMW dealer around had told us that there wasn't a replacement available in the whole country, and that even if there were, it would have cost us $1,500 just for the part. This pretty much left us dead in the water. Now, one part of the story that I've left out up until now is that the night before, David had actually met a fellow biker named Germán, who lived in the apartment complex we were staying in. The two had struck up a friendly conversation, and Germán happened to mention to David that we could knock on his door if we needed anything. That being the case, David suggested that we try knocking on Germán's door, if nothing else, just to see if he might know of an aftermarket shop that might be able to get the part. So we tracked down Germán's apartment, knocked on his door, and were very encouraged to find out that he did, in fact, know of such a place and was willing to make the connection for us to see if they could take care of us. We called the shop, and they said to go ahead and remove the starter and take it to them so that they could assess the situation and possibly fix it for us. We weren't out of the woods yet, of course, but this development was very encouraging, and we were much more hopeful than we had been earlier that morning. And that's where we'll pick up this next installment of our Chilean adventure. So David got to work removing the starter. We realized at one point that we didn't have all the tools we needed, but the maintenance guys there at the apartment stepped up and let us use theirs, so that worked out okay. We got the starter off and also realized we were only going to have one bike to get over to the shop. Then Germán very generously offered his bike for us to use so that we could both go over there. I was reluctant at first, but he insisted and even handed me his driver's license to use, which was very generous. So I got to ride around La Serena on his little Honda and even had my own little Chilean license plate. We headed down Avenida del Mar and turned left here onto Calle Cuatro Esquinas, which is a road that would take us back into town away from the beach there. Believe it or not, at one point as we were riding down this street, Germán's Honda actually ran out of gas, so we had to pull off onto a side street. We put the side stand down and tipped the motorcycle so that the last little bit of gas could get where it needed to be, just enough to get me to a gas station. And we did reach a Shell station that was there on the corner of Calle Cuatro Esquinas and Avenida Balmaceda, which is another one of the main drags there. So we were able to make it. When we got to the shop, we met the owner, Mr. Aurelio Marchán. We talked to him a little bit. He's a great guy, 72 years old and really knows his stuff. He's what I would call a true master of his craft. He told us to leave the starter and cables there and he would take care of us. And we were actually able to do a little interview with him as well before we left. So here's Mr. Aurelio Marchán.
Buenas tardes, ¿nos puede decir su nombre, por favor?
Aurelio Marchán.
¿Y usted dónde vive?
Vivo aquí en La Serena, González Videla.
¿Y es originario de aquí, de esta área?
O sea, yo soy de, bueno, podría ser, pero soy nacido en Santiago y educado acá en La Serena.
¿A qué se dedica aquí?
A la parte electromecánica del automóvil.
¿Cuánto tiempo lleva haciendo este trabajo?
Trabajo toda la vida, llevo medio siglo, me digo.
¿Cuántos años tiene usted?
Tengo 72 años.
Gracias por el buen servicio que presta aquí usted.
Claro, así es.
Bueno, gracias.
Ya, muy amable.
Yeah. Once we had left everything in the capable hands of Mr. Marchán, we headed back toward the apartments. Here we went along Avenida Balmaceda again and just kind of backtracked to Calle Cuatro Esquinas, which is the intersection you see here. To the right. And there's the Shell station I mentioned earlier where we had stopped on the way there. At this point, it was about the middle of the day, and Mr. Marchant had told us that he would probably have things ready about 4 or 4:30. So we decided to go back to the apartment and maybe just plan a half day of wandering around La Serena and using the time to check out some of the sights. We let the owner of the apartment know that we would need to stay another night, and since she lives in another apartment right there along that same avenue by the beach, we just walked down there and paid her for the extra night, and while we were there, realized that she had some pretty cool views from her apartment. So we snapped a few aerial shots from there. We walked along the beach a little ways and then turned down Avenida Francisco de Aguirre, where you can see the lighthouse there in the background. Then we just continued down that way, checked out La Recoba, which is a cool little place that has a lot of vendor booths, and made our way to the Plaza de Armas, which is basically the city center. It's a plaza there right in the middle of the city. It ended up being after 5 o'clock by the time we got a call from Mr. Marchant, but he told us that he had been able to rebuild the starter and it would be ready to pick up by 6 o'clock, so we headed that way. You can see by the condition of the magnets here that this thing was totally shot, but he completely rebuilt it and had it up and running like new, as you can see here. And here's Mr. Marchant in his office. This guy really was our hero. He really came through for us and got us back on the road. But there was another hero in this story, Germán Blanchard, who was the guy who set all of this up for us. It was his network, his resources, his generosity, his time that really brought everything together and saved the day. So we wanted to do a little interview with him as well so that you could meet him.
Bueno, mi nombre es Germán Blanchard. Estamos en este momento en La Serena, Chile, en un día maravilloso con mis compañeros de motociclismo que hemos conocido. Yo soy un inmigrante voluntario a La Serena, nací en Valparaíso y conocí esta ciudad y me enamoré de ella. Tuve la suerte de vivir entre 2008 y 2010 en Lake Tahoe, California, donde conocí a gente maravillosa y también pude enriquecerme un poco del pueblo americano y todas las cosas buenas que tienen para ofrecer a la gente que está por allá. Yo soy director de Emprende Joven, que es una empresa que se dedica a desarrollar habilidades de emprendimiento en escolares a lo largo de los distintos colegios de Chile. Lo que hacemos es hacer talleres que desarrollan habilidades socioemocionales que incentivan a los jóvenes a poder ser los protagonistas de su propio destino. Muchas gracias a ustedes y que tengan un viaje espectacular.
At this point, we were getting close to the middle of the day, January 15th, so we really wanted to get loaded up and head out. We had lost a day in La Serena, but that's okay, it's certainly not the worst place to lose a day. Plus, we got to meet some great people like Mr. Marchant and Germán here, who really were a godsend, and that's part of the adventure. On the way out, I think the city of La Serena decided it had one last little curve it wanted to throw at us. We had a bit of a close call here, you can see. I'm not sure what all happened there. I think maybe the truck just didn't appear to be coming up as fast as it was, but everyone's safe, we're all good, and after that last little curveball, we were able to finally leave La Serena. Great city, but we really needed to make some forward progress at this point. Our goal at this point was to get to the dunes at Concon, which is about 250 miles away from La Serena, and we wanted to get there before nightfall, preferably with a little bit of daylight left so we could check out the scenery before moving on. So we headed south on Route 5 again, which for the most part goes along the coastline until just north of Viña del Mar. As you get closer to Concon, Route 5 starts heading a little eastward on inland, and we didn't want to go that way. We wanted to stick to the coast so that we could check out the dunes. So we cut over onto these other highways, E46 and F30E. It was really kind of nice because it got us off the freeway for a while, which is a nice break to have on a motorcycle. As we made our way into Concon, I actually got my first experience with filtering. If you're not familiar with this practice, don't feel bad. I'd never done it before either. I think it has different names. I guess some people call it white lining or lane splitting. But as you can see here, this is where if you're on a motorcycle, you can just kind of move past all this traffic. It's a little weird and awkward at times because you've got these car doors sticking out or vendor street signs here that you have to weave your way around. But I've got to tell you, I really liked it because it shaved a lot of time off of this trip. We would have had to wait a long time on all this traffic to get where we were going. But as it stood, we were able to move past it and make our way toward the destination a lot faster and more efficiently than everyone around us, which was really nice since we were quickly losing daylight. As we came up to bridges like this, we had to get back into the regular traffic lane just because there's no space over there on the side. We eventually got through all the traffic and were able to navigate our way through the streets of Concon here, making our way closer and closer to the dunes. And our destination was finally in sight. This is the area of the dunes here. You can kind of see the dunes over on the right side and the city on the left. They're just right across the street from each other. We were able to get some shots from the top of the dunes. We had the drone with us and we really wanted to get some drone footage because it would have been awesome, but it just wouldn't cooperate, so we had to do without. We hung out for a little bit, but we had to get going before too long because we still had to get groceries and make our way out of town via routes 64 and 68 and try to find a place to camp, which meant that we would most likely be setting up in the dark again. Once we got off the main highway, we actually ended up wandering around for a little while on some country roads in the dark, but ultimately we were unsuccessful at finding a place to camp. Fortunately, there was a really nice couple by the last name of Cabezas who came across us. They stopped their car, asked what was going on, and when they realized the situation, they offered to put us up for the night, which was really nice and really generous. The catch was that we had to ride up this really steep hill with a lot of loose dirt in the middle of the night, but it was worth it because when we got to the top they gave us a room, we had a kitchen to cook our groceries, and were able to get a shower, so bonus. And that wrapped up January 15th, putting us at about 284 miles covered in this episode. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Once again, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Click up here to continue with the next episode of the Chile Ride series in English, or if you would like to practice your listening comprehension by rewatching this same episode in Spanish, solo haz clic aquí abajo para volver a ver este mismo episodio en español.